Aloha and welcome to the Path of Me podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson, and I wanted to create a sacred space for soul to soul conversations with people sharing their light through their passion, power, and purpose. Thank you all so much for being here. Let me introduce my next amazing podcast guest. Hey everyone, welcome to the Path of Me. I have the lovely Tracy Poizner with me today. She is the founder of Spacetime Alchemy. She's a podcast host of the Limitless podcast, and she's had an extensive background in homeopathy and Bach Flower Essence and so much more. Welcome, Tracy, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Wendy. This is a pleasure. Really, it's always great to talk to you.
Oh, every time I talk to you, I feel like we go in the most incredible directions, always,
Yep, some
always
deep rabbit holes.
into the unknown, like that Frozen song, Into the Unknown. But anyway, the first thing I wanted to ask you is how first of all, you started out as a professional classical musician
Yeah,
and
that's what I
working.
did at university.
And then I'm curious as to how you got from there to found.
To hear.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a 3 hour, 4 hour conversation, but if you
Yeah,
kind of break down
I'll give you the short
in
version.
short notes, cliff
I
notes.
worked for about 25 years um, as a symphony orchestra musician. I play the viola.
Mhm.
And I'm just somebody who loves to study and learn things. And at one point, I got interested in homeopathy. I read book after book after book. I ended up taking some courses, and before I knew it, I had finished all the courses and I was qualified as a practitioner. So I did those two things together for many years. I saw not so many clients, but some clients were coming while I was still working in the orchestra. I eventually decided to let go of my orchestra job and just focus full time on homeopathy. And after a number of years of doing that, the sort of online space was blowing up as it has done. And I decided to move into not so much doing homeopathy online, although I had practiced online and I was actually very involved, a lot of online trainings. I have a
Mhm.
mentor in Italy. I've been studying with the same wonderful amazing, wise, and gifted homeopath for about 15 years.
Wow.
And that clinical supervision group is something that happens online. It's lovely, this international group of people that meets once a month. But I decided to get into like coaching, to do life coaching. And I focused on stepmothers, actually, of women who
Oh,
are married to someone who has children from a previous
interesting.
relationship
Yeah.
because that's part of my story. I'm also a mother, but
Mhm.
I have one daughter and three adult stepkids. And I just felt like because of my homeopathy training, I had learned so much about human psychology and childhood development and family dynamics. That's all a really integral part of the practice of homeopathy. And boy, did I ever use all of that
I
in my,
bet.
in my family life. And
Mhm.
I thought, what do people do who don't have this? Like you don't have that background. How does anybody cope? So I started exploring what was available online, and I was actually really horrified that a lot of the Facebook groups were really places where women could come and complain to each other
Mm.
about the difficulties that they were having. And as I would read sort of people would put a situation out as a post, and a lot of other people who were just as confused would jump on and give answers.
Oh gosh.
And
Okay.
I thought, where is the place where some women farther down the road are sort of standing at the edge of this pond and throwing out a life preserver,
Yeah.
pulling people out of the muck? Like, so I decided there was a need for that, and I started a group. I started it by looking for the women I found in these other groups who were giving really good answers, what I considered to be really wise responses. And I just reached out to those people and said, I'm starting another group. I would love to have you there. So that the first 8 or 10 people were just sort of wise, emotionally balanced, experienced stepmoms. And then I started, inviting people in so that every question was getting a response from somebody with a head on their shoulders kind of situation. And I had a zero tolerance policy for whatever, like bashing, slamming, whatever. It was a very safe, respectful place to be. So that's still going now after 8 or 9 years.
Really? Wow, what a gift. What a gift you are. I think there are so many people that you don't even know you've helped.
Oh
That are
yeah, no, that
just
I
maybe
still get
not participating, but
exactly.
watching and learning. And we don't really know the ripples in the pond, right? So
You
how
really don't, because
awesome.
I still get messages from people who say, I've never posted here, but your group or your podcast totally saved my life. And it's very rewarding to hear that.
Mm, mm,
Um, so after some years, I realized that the bigger problem in this dynamic was that the husband needs some help. The father of these children is the guy who really has skin in the game here in a
mhm,
big way.
mhm.
Um, and there started to be more spaces for stepmoms online. And what there wasn't was a space for these dads who are, in particular, the dads who are being alienated from their children. So I'm fully aware that it goes both ways, and there are
Right,
many mothers who experience this problem.
right.
But I don't have any experience there because I didn't have that problem.
Mhm.
I experienced what it's like for the dad to have this problem, and I developed a lot of tools and a lot of, perspective and understanding and whatever. So I just became an expert in parental alienation, focusing exclusively on the dad side of the equation. Um, and
Are
I
there
did that for a
places?
number of
Do
years.
you still do it? Do you still have that
I still have that
platform?
group, and there's a podcast up called
Oh,
Undeletable Dad.
really?
That's
You
still,
you
if
have
you
that
Google me, you
podcast?
find all these other not, completely
Wow.
unrelated things.
Okay, amazing.
And then life just took me in a funny direction. I was just looking to expand that work, and I took a business um, online program, and
Mhm.
um, the woman who was running that course had some testimonial videos from previous very successful students. And one of them was this young woman who, whatever she talked about, had like nothing to do with business, as far as I could tell. It was really about consciousness and elevating, like her work is in the space of consciousness. And I was just like hypnotized. I mean, I just said, I don't know what this is, but I have to know more about it. It was like every word she said was hitting me like, this is true. I don't understand any of it, but I know that this is true. It was one of the, like a really powerful experience of that. So I kind of like drop everything, go over and start learning this stuff. And I learned about this archetypal system of consciousness, these archetypes of consciousness, which are like loosely based on Carl Jung, who wrote about those things in the 40s or 50s. Um, but in a very elegant architecture that I really, really appreciated. Maybe being an architect's daughter made me appreciate that. I don't know. But it was
Mhm.
like, 4 channels and 4 levels, and these are the archetypes inside. And it was very, I'm going to say easy to understand. It took a long time to learn about it, but it was very manageable. And I started, using that with my homeopathy clients. And I really enjoyed how deep I was able to go and how much it helped me to understand people and myself. I mean, of course, I was working on myself, and I started to learn. the undeniable truth that everything about business is about my journey and my growth. And I had never been interested in business before. And that made me understand that business is my doorway to personal growth. It's my personal doorway. It's not so much like relationships or other things that other challenges that people have. But business really confronted me with things that don't pop up in my day to day
Hmm.
or had not before.
So you had a lot of growth from that experience.
Oh, totally,
By your
totally.
chosen path. It's so interesting. We have so many paths up the mountain,
I
and
know.
all of
I know.
us choose a very specific path for our own awakening, our own enlightenment, our own
Exactly.
discovery,
Yeah.
right? And
And
I
for some
think it's
people,
fascinating.
it just sort of jumps on them unawares, the people who are woken from a sound sleep with some kind of, profound enlightenment
Download.
experience that sort of
Yeah.
not prepared for it. But anyway, in taking a course that was related to this archetypes of consciousness world, um, which the thing about it that I love so much is that they speak about like the process of elevation is so clearly demarcated and the realms of consciousness are so easy to understand. And the idea of dark consciousness being the birthplace of all creation that really appealed to me and interested me. So I was taking somebody else's program, and one of the prompts that she had for us was, if you weren't doing what you're doing right now, what would you be doing? And at that time, I was still doing this dad
Mhm.
coaching and counseling business, and I loved it. I was really good at it. It was a great, business model. I was helping a lot of people. I loved it. I had no problem with that. But, in the spirit of answering the question, I immediately said I would be matching the archetypes of consciousness with the Bach Flower Essences. And as I've said to people before, I almost like wanted to turn around and say, who just said that?
Where did it
Like
come
that
from?
was, where did that come from? I wasn't thinking of that.
Mhm.
Like that was nowhere on my radar. It had never come into my awareness before. And it was just there as a complete, like, and I remember saying to her, like, I don't even know where I would begin. Like, what would I do? She said, I don't know, open a spreadsheet, see what happens. And
Open a
that was
spreadsheet.
literally like, that's literally what I did. It
Oh my
started on a spreadsheet.
God.
And anyway, it became a much, much deeper project than, what it was at first. It's gone through many iterations.
Can you explain for people who don't know what Bach Flower Essences?
Yeah. So Bach flower essences are a different kind of vibrational medicine from homeopathy. So they are lump, I mean, I always had them in my office because they're like homeopathy in the sense that they are purely vibrational medicines. There are no conventional active ingredients like molecules of anything. Like even essential oils are, it's a molecular thing that goes up your nose and through the blood-brain barrier or whatever, but they are volatile oil molecules in the air. Homeopathy at the higher dilutions and Bach flower essences have no molecular active component. They are just energy. They're information.
Sounds pure. Sounds extremely pure.
Well, it is pure because there's nothing in it but
Right.
information, right?
Right.
So it's sort of talking directly to your operating system. They're codes for your software. And whatever is wrong with your hardware is being run by your software. Whatever it is, aside from, falling off the roof, I mean, there are mechanical injuries or poisoning or, things that can really be from the outside,
Mhm.
frostbite, whatever.
Right.
Um, but otherwise, it's all about the terrain. It's about your susceptibility. And that we're talking about your software that writes how you respond to your environment, to stress, to emotional hardships, to triggers,
Would you say
to your
that this
food.
Bach flower essences are absolutely universal and able you can create formulations to help many different kinds of
To help at
issues?
virtually everything.
It's amazing.
So, so Bach, who it's interesting that his name is Bach, and I was a musician for so many years, but
Yeah.
he was a Welsh medical doctor and bacteriologist, actually. So, a very classical science person who made a great name for himself in the 1920s doing research on gut microbiome, which was very early. I mean, I think he was probably one of the pioneers of that. And what he developed was a way to use the gut bacteria as a medicine. So obviously cultured, purified, whatever you want to say about it, but he was creating vaccine-like injectable products
Wow.
that were not for prevention of disease, but for curing chronic diseases. So he was working with heart disease, kidney disease, liver dysfunction, diabetes, whatever, those kind of chronic health problems with a lot of success. And he got very famous for that system. Uh, and then just by a quirk of, you know, uh, professional moving around between hospitals, he ended up at the Royal London Homeopathic Hospital, um, which was a ordinary hospital doing surgeries and everything else, but with a preferential view towards using homeopathy when possible. And
What what
from
what era was this? When?
19 late 1920s.
Okay.
Yeah, the Royal London Homeopathic Hospital was active until very recently when there was, a lot of hoo-ha in the, political hoo-ha to get rid of it. But it's been there for years. The royal family were huge supporters. The Queen of England always had a homeopathic physician. Um, since like I mean, it was invented just about 200 years ago, a little
What's
over 200
incredible
years
to
ago.
me about the Bach flower essence is that it's not very well known. I mean, it just came into my awareness maybe 9 or 10 years ago,
Mm,
and clearly they're very pure and there's probably an incredible effectiveness when people are
yeah. Oh,
treated with it. So it's
absolutely.
so curious to me that it has either been kind of suppressed by society or not, it's just not as well known as I would think after years of documented or undocumented.
Well, it got pretty well known even within his lifetime in the 1930s. It had
Mhm.
already spread quite extensively, and it is used really everywhere in the world.
Oh,
It's
okay.
kind of a quiet thing. So the the big star, the thing you would know about Bach flowers that people might know, even if they don't understand where it came from, is something called Rescue Remedy. Rescue Remedy is a very
Oh,
popular
okay. I've heard of
blend.
that. Yes.
Yeah. So Rescue Remedy is available where I live. It's on, regular pharmacy shelves. It's in the
Mhm.
supermarket. At every single health food store would sell Rescue Remedy. That's the only blend that he made, that he marketed. Or I
Oh,
would say he hardly marketed anything really, but
I mean, word of mouth,
um,
maybe, right? Just spread.
well, I mean, it's the only blend that he sanctioned. The rest of them are all individuals, but it was something that he used to literally bring somebody back to life. The story is that it was a fisherman who had been in a terrible storm and had had to lash himself to the mast of his boat and just pray,
Oh
then
my
got
gosh.
eventually washed ashore and he was unconscious and
Gosh.
hypothermic and whatever. And Bach, being a doctor, was called to the scene and he put a little of this rescue remedy on the guy's lips. And apparently, in just a few seconds, he sat up and asked for a drink.
What? Are you
Um,
serious?
and
Oh my
the
God.
rest is,
Wow.
history. So, um, rescue remedy is used for any kind of shock or trauma, emotional or physical.
Mhm.
And yeah, like while waiting for treatment, right? While you're waiting for the ambulance to come, or if you're not able to
I
get
have no
treatment
idea.
or not, whatever it might be, fall down the stairs or the, news of a bereavement or something, it's very, very useful. But anyway, he eventually decided to leave the world of medicine altogether and
Really?
just pursue this idea of the purest possible healing agent. He was a very spiritual person, and he just had this really strong intuition that whatever divine source you want to point to that put human beings on the planet with all of these resources, rocks and minerals and water and plants and animals, that the ideal healing agent is right in front of our noses, and that it has to be like the easiest possible thing. So homeopathy is extremely natural and very pure. It only uses one substance at a time, but it is very labor intensive to make. It involves triturating in a mortar and pestle with milk sugar for an hour at each stage of the potentization. So, when you want like the typical 30C that you see at the, in the store that you can buy, that's kind of the most common potency of homeopathy. It will have had 3 goes of being triturated by hand
As
in
a
milk sugar, and then
homeopathic practitioner, are you having to create this?
no, you don't do that. You buy
Oh,
them from the
oh
pharmacy.
my gosh, that
No,
sounds
no,
really
no, no. You buy them from the
involved.
pharmacy, and then like once this process is done, then it is phenomenally um, fertile in the sense that it would create a lifetime of medicine from this activity. But if you were
Oh,
doing
okay.
it yourself,
Okay.
um, it does take a great deal of effort to make them.
Mhm.
And I think he said there's a simpler way
Mhm.
to extract the healing information from a plant without processing it to let go of all of the cellulose and the chlorophyll and the fibers and the juices that we don't need that stuff. That's herbal medicine. They use those parts in herbal medicine.
Okay.
It's not that like those elements don't have any use,
So
because they
herbal
do.
medicine is different from what he created with the Bach flower.
It's different than what homeopathy is also. I mean,
Mhm.
it's the purpose is not to ingest a substance that interacts with the biochemicals in your body. It's not, there is no digestive process. It's not involving your blood systems. It's just information. So in homeopathy, you can serially dilute a substance until there's no more stuff, until
Mhm.
science would say through what is known as Avogadro's number, 10 to the minus 24, there's no more stuff in this. It's been diluted till the last speck of the original substance is no longer detectable. What Bach wanted instinctively was something that didn't require such an intervention to create the medicine. And
It's really interesting how once in a while someone is born into this world and quietly does something by following their own inner knowing and their own inner guidance that literally changes the world.
totally.
And they're in their lane. And I know recently you had this epiphany about how you were going to use the Bach
Mm.
flower essences. So share a little bit about that and how that came about.
Well, um, one of the things that I mostly respect about the Bach essences, I have to say, is the idea that they are born completely from direct personal experience of one man. There is no, homeopathy is very, very um, rigorous and science-based in terms of how they test their medicines, and they're approvers, and there's a whole system, and you test it on healthy people, and the data that you collect from that process becomes the information that you use to prescribe these medicines. This is completely one man's direct personal experience of each of these essences. And he says, this is what it's for. I know that because this is what it did for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need anything else than that. I don't need to prove this. You can use it or not use it. This
I
is
love
not
that.
about, I don't care if anybody believes in this or approves of it or sanctions it. This is the thing. I'm telling you what it's for. Um, Not in an egotistical way, because he never made any money from this. He didn't really get, uh, anyway, just to get back to, because you asked me, what I'm doing. So this idea of the intuitive guidance, or, the download,
Mm-hmm.
is really fundamental to this kind of medicine. And that is really what happened to me after some years now of having matched these 38 essences. That's another thing I love about it. It's a complete set. It's a finished product. There are 38 of them. Other people have gone ahead and made other kind of flower essences, and I'm sure that they all work. It's not about thinking that this system is better. It's the fact that it's a closed system that fits into my archetypal view. Um, I just had a download about using these blends that I've been making for human design, specifically for um, the 5 types of human design. And I feel the same way about human design that I originally did about Bach flowers. Like, I don't know that much about it. You know, Bach flowers were not my specialization. I knew about them. I had them on my shelf. I I wouldn't have said that they were baloney, but they were not anywhere, exalted in my view of vibrational medicines.
Right.
And human design, I've had my human design read, done, I've had my chart done. I think it's really cool. That's about all I know about it. So this sort of instant knowing that I had, like, this is perfect for working with human design. Human design is a system of energetic typing. You could call it personality typing. It is based partly on astrological stuff. You put in your birth date and time and place of birth. It's based partly on the Hebrew Kabbalah. It's based partly on the I Ching. Uh, it's based partly on uh, there's one other thing that I'm leaving out. I can't remember it at the moment. Doesn't matter. It's extremely um, complex in the sense that you can go very deep with it, but um, it can be just fun to learn about your type that helps you understand what your innate strengths and weaknesses are, and how you might move around in the world aligned with who you really are, and not fighting some conditioning to be a different way than you are. When you can see, oh, this is because this is how I'm made, this is who I
Right.
am,
It's not external to you,
and
right?
I
It's
don't need to be like other people. There are some of the types that need to rest a lot more than other people do. And for them, it could be that a normal work day is 3 or 4 hours. They they will only have exhaustion and burnout trying to do things, in another way. And so, um, for many people, it's a great relief to learn about their human design and to be able to organize their life in a way that allows them to be successful as who they really are, instead of beating themselves up for not being able to meet a
right.
certain standard or
There's such a rigorous programming and expectation of
exactly.
output and productivity, but that doesn't take into account
Yeah.
the unique personalities and
Yeah.
innate, strengths and weaknesses. And
One thing that I love about it is that there is one type um, called the generator who creates energy for all the other people. And the way that they do that is by doing what lights them up exclusively. Like, so if you're a generator or a manifesting generator like me, you bring a lot of energy to other people. But the only way that works is if you are consistently doing what lights you up and not what you think you're supposed to be doing, not what you think will make more money, not what think will make you more, credible or give you more value or whatever.
paradigm shift for you to know this about yourself,
Exactly.
where you began, right? Have you been more gentler and kinder with yourself, knowing that this is your human design?
My experience is not that this is gentle. Sometimes it's like, oh shit, I have to do this. Like, it's because what lights you up is not always what makes sense.
Right. To trust it is
It's
huge.
not what will be approved of.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You have to trust it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know that I started to do that more because I know that about because I know my human design. It was because I started to recognize the feeling in me when something lands
Yeah.
and it's a yes, I have to say yes to it. Otherwise, I'm going in the wrong direction. And sometimes that costs me a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sometimes it costs a lot of time. I can't understand why I'm doing this, but I know that I need to do it. It's not easy to explain it to people in my environment, my loved ones, my
Right.
family, my
Right.
friends.
But I love that you're
Um,
aligned. I love that you honor your truth. And I really feel and believe, like you, when we are listening and knowing and following our truth, regardless of how it looks to the external world, we are fully, fully engaged in our mission and purpose here to
that's it.
support others. And we have to
That's
have
it.
courage to do it, because if we are worried about what people think, if we're worried about people pleasing, if we're worried about public opinion, we won't be bold and take the steps that we've taken to stay in our lane and shut out the noise and just know when we do this and answer this call, or, receive the download and
Yeah.
embrace and embody it, regardless of the why or the the cost or the time or the pushback. That to me is what accelerates our growth.
It
That
does
to
accelerate
me
it 100%.
amplifies our frequency, because when we're living true to ourselves and our nature, when we are following our own knowing, divine knowing about who we are and why we're here, then we are soul expressed and able to share more light, to share more healing and support for humanity in whatever capacity, right?
Yeah.
So I honor you.
So thank you. I I mean, I would just say that um like you can't even hear the voice of your soul mission or your divine purpose until you have like alchemized some shadow, right? Until you've worked on the level of busting your illusions, of taking off these like dirty sunglasses that we're all wearing
Yeah.
to, the filters that we have to see the world through. You can't hear that voice because it sounds like static. It's just noise. It
Hmm.
doesn't have any meaning when you are in the thrall, in the grasp of those illusions or the matrix, whatever you want to call it, right?
Hmm.
Um, it sounds like nonsense. So you have to do some work of, you know, coming out of that place. And interestingly, the human design system is built around a process of deconditioning. They call it a journey of deconditioning. to like decondition yourself from trying to be other than you are. It's a long work, you know, but
Mhm.
that's exactly where the place where these remedies can be so incredibly useful. They can accelerate that process so that it doesn't take 10 years to do your deconditioning. It could happen in a month, you know, not in a month. I don't want to be glib about it, but it could happen in a year, what otherwise might take you 10 years of just waiting for the kind of insights where you would go, oh my goodness, you know, I can't believe that I used to think that, and I don't think that anymore. You know, I don't believe that about myself or the world anymore. When you were talking about like not caring about external opinions, you know, there's another whole level of that where you can say, yeah, I don't care about external opinions, but you still care about your own opinions. And your opinions are based on stuff that it feels completely integral to you. You can't even imagine that it's conditioned from the outside. It just feels like who you are, that you are saying no to something because it's not aligned with who you are, except you don't know who you are until that stuff is
Until
gone,
you
you know?
peel all the layers and
Yeah,
layers and
yeah,
layers off of the false programming.
yeah. So
You
it
don't
there is
know.
this deconditioning process.
For
And I
sure.
really like that about the whole um, system of human design is that it's serving a purpose to bring you out of the conditioned impulse to be different somehow than who you innately are. And of course, then it's not just these five types. There's all kinds of, I can't even think of all the words at the moment, gates and channels and authorities and whatever. I mean, it's very
It's
profound.
more complex than just
Yeah, yeah, but
basic
it
human
does give you a lot of, really great insight into how you're made and to be able to have a product that is completely pure and with no, adverse effect profile, no side effects, there's nothing in it but
design.
information. And even to say that, you know, you and I are both sitting in a room where every radio channel in the world is passing through right now. And if you had a shortwave radio sitting there, you could prove that that's true, that they're not outside of your apartment. They're in your room. They're passing through your body, but they're not relevant. So they don't do anything. And these kinds of vibrational medicines are the same. If the information isn't relevant to you, it just doesn't connect with anything. It's like it's like striking the tone that's going to cause something else in the room to vibrate because they are harmonized together. If if this vibration has some meaning in your system because it harmonizes something that was distorted, then it's going to do that. And if it's not aligned for you, it's going to do nothing.
It's not
So
harmful. So it's
it's not
it's it's a
harmful.
complete alignment or not, or it just lets whatever go.
Exactly,
That's
exactly.
beautiful. So tell me, I'd like to know briefly if you were to share a few things that have helped you to get here. You know, you can't get here or arrive here in this space of wisdom and knowing without doing so much inner work and
Mm.
exploration. What have been a couple things that have helped you to navigate, those difficult spaces
Um,
that have supported you
well,
on your
it's
journey?
interesting because um, each person is going to say something different based on their own makeup. Whatever was
Right.
challenging for me,
Right.
what's challenging for me is that I'm an extremely um, analytic person by nature. I'm a very brain heavy person. I am not in my body. That was something that really drove me to want to do this project about the archetypes and the flowers because what I was learning about the archetypes was completely fascinating, but you have to be able to embody it
Mm-hmm.
That you have to be able to embody these insights in order to be able to move in the world with them, because it's your body that's carrying you through the world. And if something feels triggering or risky or fearful,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to feel it in your body. You don't feel it as a,
A thought.
analysis, right? You're like, this is something that I want to do. And your body is saying, hell no. Like, this is going to be so uncomfortable. So for me, I had to recognize that I needed to let go of the ego part of me. We just had this conversation before we started
Yes,
recording,
we
right?
did.
I had to allow myself to not identify with being smart.
Mm,
Um,
interesting.
because I think that's been my ego hold up all my life, is that
Mm,
I'm smart enough to figure it out. And I don't mean smart in terms of like getting 98% on all the tests or whatever, but
mhm.
like I can figure stuff out. I can cogitate my way through any situation. And um, letting go of that and trusting my body more,
Mhm.
that's been really hard. I, at one point, I decided to embrace muscle testing in my homeopathy practice, which had been like I was a closet believer in muscle testing. I loved it when other people would do it on
Mhm.
me. Other practitioners would muscle
Mhm.
test me, and I would think, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" But I could never do that because like it
Interesting.
doesn't make any sense, and I don't
Oh,
feel anything in my body.
so
Like,
there was a block for you there.
yeah, it was a real block. So it started with, a friend of mine, actually, I'm so grateful to her. She found a person who was teaching a whole system called Touch for Health, which is a very involved system of muscle testing, essentially. So I learned how to do it with an on like an in-person practitioner that really
Mhm.
could demonstrate things for me that I could feel.
Mm.
And I learned to be more in my body and that still to this day, it's hard to trust what's in my body.
Really? Really, after
But
all this time? That's
yeah,
interesting.
but like I said, that's why you have to trust it and do the thing that doesn't make any sense. Um, or else you are undermining your trust in your body. Like I get this, I got on a call with somebody who was um, uh, inviting me to sign up for, a very expensive group program in New York, like a live thing. And I got on the call saying, well, no way that I'm doing this, but I was interested to know like how
Mhm.
they were from the sales perspective, how they. And it wasn't that her sales pitch won me over. It was that I had a feeling in my body that said, you're supposed to go to this. And I said yes immediately, even though it was against everything I was thinking. Like, why on earth would you do this? What are you going to get from it? It's way too much money,
What's
blah, 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 blah.
incredible though, I want to stop you here, is that you you follow your knowing. Even though mentally there's that chatter, you seem to follow
Well, I do now.
knowing,
It's been a long
took
journey
a
of
while.
fighting with it. It took
Mhm.
a while.
Mhm.
It took a minute to get here. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, I'm
way more
glad
than a
you're
minute.
here because I think your work
Thank
is
you.
going to be very powerful. And Tracy, we're just out of time. It just went so quick. But thank you so much for being a lovely guest on the show. I learned so much, and I think the listeners are going to learn so much as
Uh,
well. So
Thank you for your great questions.
thank you. Thanks for sharing all that knowledge. And to my audience, thank you so much for being here with us. Be kind to yourselves. We'll see you next time. I love y'all. Bye.